We are back again today with another Meet the Elders video, and today we have the church planning pastor, Mike Garlem, with us here today. So Mike, you want to take a second to introduce yourself and your family?
Sure. First, I'd like to point out that Kill is much taller than me. When we shot the intro video that we did a few weeks ago, I stood on a table so that we kind of even ourselves out, but now it's really obvious how much taller he is than me.
There you go.
Yeah, my name's Mike Garlem. We planted Pillar Church of Stafford just over a week over 2 years, and yeah.
Yeah, your wife and kids.
My wife and kids, Anna. We have been married for 23 years. Met in just outside of Washington D.C. in Maryland at a Bible college there, Washington Bible College. We have 2 boys. Jackson is 16. He's a junior this year at Brook Point High School playing basketball. Elliot just turned 14 yesterday, actually, and he's at Stafford Middle School.
Awesome. And then one question that everybody's kind of wondering is, how many Washington National hats do you own?
That's hilarious. I think just 5.
Just 5. Just
so.
5.
Yeah.
Just.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's funny. And then where are you from?
So I grew up in Herndon, Virginia, suburb just out of Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. So you're not too far from home?
Not too far.
And then how did you get from there to here logistically?
So I went from living in a town called South Riding, Virginia, just outside of Herndon, Chantilly area. When I went to Bible college, I was commuting to Washington Bible College. That was a terrible commute. It's in Lanham, Maryland, and so I ended up living there and meeting Anna at the Bible college there in my second year at the college, and then we got married. And due to Anna's health issues, we ended up moving to Stafford at that point to be closer to family for health. And so, yeah, I've been in Stafford for about 22 years.
Wow, well, that's longer than all
you've
the
been
others. Longer than I've been alive, yes. And then how long have you been at this Pillar? I'm assuming since its inception.
Yep.
And then how long have you been in and involved at Pillar, kind of big scheme?
Sure. So I was pastoring the church that was in this building and chose to shut it down through COVID to replant. And I had met actually Clint Clifton in that process, and he made a crazy pitch to me to do some crazy stuff. And so we ended up shutting the church down, the old church, and then went to Pillar Dumfries during COVID. And so while everything was shut down, and so went through the residency process there at Pillar Dumfries and formed core team out of Pillar Dumfries. Some people came with us, some people from my old church and Ted's old church came with us, and then we launched here August 2021.
Awesome. And then can you give us an abbreviated testimony?
Abbreviated testimony to a preacher? Right? Yeah. So I grew up, like I said, in Herndon to good parents. But we were not saved. We were in a church context, kind of on and off, Christmas and Easter, Creasters, whatever. And we had never really heard the gospel. And so through kind of some family tragedy, we started visiting another church, really through my mom's cancer. And my dad was the first one to get saved, like really quickly after he heard the gospel. And then my mom followed. I was a little bit late in the game on that, but I came to faith on a fishing trip with my youth pastor, a guy named Don Stone, and he led me to Christ on the way home on a fishing trip, explained the gospel, used kind of the chasm that, there's a cliff here and a cliff here, and then the cross comes down between. Jesus paid for our sins and bridges the gap between our sin and a holy and righteous God. And so, I was a freshman in high school, 15 years old.
Awesome. And then I'm going to get into the Fast Five real quick, and then we'll have one more question for you at the end.
Very good. Okay, one more, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Favorite local place to eat?
Mason-Dixon Cafe used to be in Stafford. It's getting ready to open back up in Stafford over by Publix.
Yeah. Awesome. Favorite sports team?
Washington Nationals.
Height difference between you and your wife?
Right about 4 inches.
How do you like your hot dog?
And I'm German, right? Sauerkraut and mustard.
That's disgusting. Who's your favorite music group or artist?
That is a really hard question. I have a very broad music taste. Comes to worship music, Maverick City is the only way to go. Outside of worship music, I love Chris Stapleton. I was a 90s kid and grew up on 90s hip hop, and I've never lost my taste for hip hop. And so there's a Christian rapper right now, Young C, that I've been listening to quite a bit. So
I've heard, I haven't told you this, but I've heard some stories that you don't let your phone used for aux events at the church because you're scared.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Some of that 90s hip hop will pop back up. Oh man. And then last question is, so you've been on staff since the church's inception, being like the lead salary pastor here. So of course you've been serving your congregation, but what's one way you're looking or you're like excited to serve your congregation, either continuing or in a new way, a new light?
Sure. Just entering into our third year here at Pillar Stafford, God has been so amazing. We've experienced just a real joy in the congregation, a real unity. It's really been a privilege to serve here. I think the thing that I would say that I'm most excited about is what I believe God is going to do in our missional community and DNA groups this year. Our other elder, Hutch, one of our other elders, Hutch, is going to be retiring just in a few weeks and is going to be able to devote some time specifically to those, what we say are our other two kind of discipleship structures in our church. And so I'm super excited to see what God does there. There's a lot, right? I've been incredibly blessed to have you on staff, honestly, Kale, and so I'm excited to see what God continues to do in your life as we continue to walk through those things together. So
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.